What's happening eighth grade? I know I don't have that fancy music yet, like Hip Hughes, ba 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 ba, but I will figure it out someday. So today we're talking to you about the North and South in the Civil War. Go Mets! They would be in the North because they are in New Jersey. Well, actually New York, but hey. So I hope this video finds you all healthy and doing your homework and thank God you don't have to be on this thing for 8 hours a day. Could you imagine looking at me 8 hours a day? Pretty good looking. I didn't shave today, but I did work out. Let's talk about the North and South. There's several differences between the North and South when it comes to the Civil War. Number one, the population in the North, 18.5 million to 5.5 million in the South. 18.5 million. They had such a large group of people to actually draw from for their battles for their army, whereas in the South there was only 1.1 million young men that could be used for war, and out of that 1.1 million, 80% of them actually signed up for the war. You had people separating between states that could be your cousin, could be your father, it doesn't matter. But if they were in the North, they fought for the North. If they were in the South, they fought for the South. You have to look at the fact that the land was so much more expansive in the North. It covered a lot more territory than it did in the South. When you had 19 Union states inside the 3630 North. Okay, so that's big. You had to look at the economy of the North and South. Look at the economy of the North. We know it was manufacturing, correct? We know the South was agrarian. They were growing cotton. In the North, they had all the factories. One of the major things about their factories was that it was built on manufacturing steel, and with steel, they had the ability to create weapons, artillery, guns, bullets. So the North had an advantageous position with their manufacturing. The South, though, with their cotton, they created 77% of the world's cotton at this time, and they shipped a lot of this cotton to Great Britain. That's why they were hoping that Great Britain would join them in the battle against the North, which never happened. This is one of the biggest downfalls of the whole territory. When we look at the battle itself, the battles, excuse me, itself, that's just a dry cough. You have to look at the fact that the South had an advantage in the war because number one, they were fighting in familiar territory. The battles all fought in the South. So when you're looking at the fact that they knew the land. Remember back when we studied the backwaters and the tides and like up there in South and North Carolina? Well, that's the problem for the North because the South was able to hide in these areas and made it difficult for the Northern troops to actually trance and pounce through those areas to find them. So, big advantage for the South. Both places had rail transport at this time. Now, the difference is the South, their transportation, their rails were not running as smoothly through the South as the North's did along the whole Union area. They were able to transport weapons and men and etc. faster and quicker, therefore giving them a big advantage. Now, when we look at the telegraph. The telegraph was a big part of the Union Army because they had already updated and had some of the greatest brains that, like mine, that come together for creating a better communications inside the Civil War. The South, however, did not have that, and it wasn't as prevalent through there. When we talk about the wars and the battles, excuse me, there's a difference between a war and a battle. The war was the Civil War. The battles are those little battles here or there, such as Antietam, Gettysburg, Vicksburg, now Fredericksburg, all kinds of burgs, But what you're going to do, you have a project that I just put up today. It's a PowerPoint. You can do it on Google Slides. And I want you to pick something that interests you and do a Google slide project on whatever you choose. Okay, I'm trying to do this so that you guys look. You don't need to be on me every day of the week. Okay, I'm going to slow it down a little bit. We're still covering the material. I might even throw a quiz up there at the end of the week or next week for you to take it home. Now, let's go back to the South. The South, these were all kids fighting. Remember, I told you in the Revolution you didn't want to be the flag holder or the drummer? Same thing here. Okay. It's crazy that kids that are your age were signing up to fight in this Civil War. Now, the next lecture I give will be on Gettysburg because Gettysburg was the bloodiest battle of the Civil War. And myth has it that it was all started by shoes. And I will go further into that when we get to Gettysburg next time. Okay. Now, in the Civil War, there was only one civilian who died, and that was Jenny Wade. Poor Jenny Wade was in her house baking bread. But I'm not going to tell you the rest until we get to Gettysburg, which is, by the way, quite haunted. You like my glasses? Make me look smarter? Here's 10 facts that I think you need to know about the Civil War. The first one, duh. It was fought between the North and the South from 1861 to 1865. Secondly, Abraham Lincoln was your president. Make sure you watch that Abraham Lincoln the Truth video done by an 8th grade girl years ago, about 8 years ago, which I find was well done. And you have to create your own opinion on what you believe because she presents a good argument in a lot of different areas. Number three, the issue of slavery and the Central Power divided the United States. What was the Central Power? We know the Central Power was government. It was the Congress and their whole Dred Scott issues and the Kansas-Nebraska Act. This is what has really brought about this fine war that killed over 600,000. You hear it from 400 to 500 to 600 to 700,000 people. You never know. Yeah, we'll go with the number anywhere between there. The North had men and more materials than the South did because they were a manufacturing state or country. The bloodiest battle of war, we already said it was Gettysburg, where if you ever have the opportunity, you need to go into Gettysburg, spend the night. It's haunted. Okay. Two greatest generals of the Civil War, Ulysses S. Grant and Robert Lee. Okay. Ulysses S. Grant and Robert Lee, well, they never actually met in battle until Gettysburg, the two greatest of them all. Okay, Robert E. Lee, for a fact, is buried at Arlington Cemetery in Washington D.C. And the funny thing is, John F. Kennedy actually lived in the Robert E. Lee house for a while. Obviously, the North won the Civil War, and that was because of Gettysburg. They were inches away from losing until Gettysburg. After the war was over, uh, the Constitution was amended to free the slaves. And we know that through what? What amendments? 13th, 14th, and 15th. Okay? Equal protection under the law for American citizens and to grant black men the right to vote. The sad thing about this is many of the Civil War battlefields, which as you get older, you know, and have families and decide to go on vacation, and you may be odd like me to go see some of these places. You want to go check them out. You want to see where this stuff happened. And the funny thing is, they're trying to develop some of these places to put up homes. Crazy, isn't it? Anyways, good seeing you. Make sure you like it or subscribe. And I know you all have Zoom because the seventh graders are telling me because Mrs. Macias is doing math lessons on there. Geez, I hope she's not having you guys up all morning doing math because, you know, math, it's good, but it's not a civil war. Have a great day. Be safe. Exercise. Love you guys.